Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam.
A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. So alhamdulillah, we had a very intellectual and good dars yesterday on what is tabligh. Today we're going to continue in the same fashion, but we're going to answer the question of why we should do tabligh. So as people are joining in, I'll just quickly just recap over what we went over yesterday. So yesterday we went through the Holy Quran. We learned about where the word tabligh actually comes from, the word through the Holy Quran, and how the Prophet ﷺ was instructed to preach everything, every little thing that Allah the Almighty taught him to everyone. And right up to his death, he fulfilled his mission. And then we looked on what the Khulafa said about tabligh and how important it is, and how Khalifa Rabi Rahimullah gave this almost target or challenge to every single Ahmadi of praying as much and as fervently as you can to be able to try and bring someone into the fold of Ahmadiyyat at least once in the year. Alhamdulillah, we learned the basics of what tabligh actually is. So today, as I explained at the start, we are going to explain why we should do tabligh and why it's so important, and why we're always going on about the different aspects of tabligh. And this really is a great opportunity, because we have these 10 days to try and fully concentrate on the different parts of tabligh. We've already talked about how we should try and wake up for tahajjud in these 10 days, and specifically pray for the prosperity of the Jamaat, and also how we can get involved. So this is just one of the avenues, logging in to Zoom and listening to various different speeches and lessons on the topic of tabligh, which is a very general topic. So that's why we're trying to break it down into specific subtopics, so that everyone can fully benefit in that way. So as I mentioned at the start, we're going to talk about why we do tabligh. So let me just quickly share the presentation for today. So alhamdulillah, we are on second dars. I believe there will be 8 durus, lessons in total, as we are not going to do dars on a Friday, as beloved Hazur is already speaking on those days, and that's more than sufficient for us. So today is Sunday, and we're going to continue with these durus right up until Thursday. Friday we take a break, and then carry on for Sunday until Saturday and Sunday, until the 4th of October. So this is a topic, as I said, why should we do tabligh? And for anything and for everything, we should always look at the Holy Quran, and the Holy Quran is our guide, is the book that we believe Allah the Almighty has sent down, and it is a perfect book, perfect in every single way. So if we ever have anything we're trying to look for, any answer, then most definitely you'll find it through the Holy Quran, one way or another. So we're going to look at this verse today. It's a very well-known verse, and you hear it all the time when we're in namaz, or whenever there's a tabligh function. And that verse is here, and I'll just quickly read the Arabic, and I'll read the translation. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ومن أحسن قولا ممن دعا إلى الله وعمل صالحا وقال إنني من المسلمين. And this is from Surah Hamim As-Sajdah, verse 34. And the translation is, and who is better in speech than he who invites men to Allah and does good works and says, I am surely of those who submit. Now, there's many few different things in this, but the main thing is that the Quran is always alluding to who is the best, what is the best thing a mu'min can do, what's the best thing a believer can do, and how can you achieve a high status. So here specifically, Allah the Almighty says, almost the best among you is who is better in speech than he who invites men or people or anyone to Allah. Meaning that if you, those people who give the message of Allah and what He has taught, and specifically talking about the teachings of the true Islam. But with that, it's not just doing that. It's always this second aspect of and does good works. وَعَمِلَ صَالِحًا. So that's the second bit. It's not just saying good things, but it's also doing good things. So you always have to have both. You can't just have someone who says good things and behind people's backs is going completely contrary to that. And we see that now. We see that with many of the leaders of today, especially in Islam. We talk about mullahs and maulvis all the time. How on stage, they seem so elegant and they're quoting verses from the Holy Quran. But then when you read about their public life or even how they display themselves, how they talk, how they conduct themselves, how they dress, all of these things go contrary to what they are preaching. So that's why both go hand in hand. You must say what you do and you must do what you say. That's also very, very important about how to bring people to Allah. And the last bit as well is وَقَالَ إِنَّنِي مِنَ الْمُسْلِمِينَ, and say that I am surely of those who submit. So in this is also a very, very subtle message. Many people, young people, old people, doesn't matter who you are, how old you are, sometimes depending on the group that you are in, sometimes you feel that, let me hide my beliefs, let me hide who I am, my identity, because I don't really want to get into trouble. I don't want to display who I really am in front of them. Let me just blend in into the background, and I don't want to discuss this particular topic. But as Ahmadis, you must know, and we talked about this yesterday, but how you should always conduct yourself in a way that people know that you are Ahmadi. And you should never be ashamed or afraid of doing that. Alhamdulillah, we're living in a country where we have freedom of speech, we have freedom of expressing our religion. And so we must be proud of that. We must be proud and happy that we are able to do that. Not just when we are with our own people, but when you go outside, you should always go with that mindset that, I am an Ahmadi and I'm going to show people that I am an Ahmadi. Not specifically go and start telling everyone that, Hazrat Masih Maud has come, accept him. Remember, we talked about how we should do things wisely. And in this particular scenario of talking about this verse, you should, in your mind, know that you are an Ahmadi and nothing else. That is your purpose, and that is what you have accepted. You have accepted that Hazrat Masih Maud is the promised reformer to have come. And so you should be proud of that. You should hold that and treasure it. And we should try and tell all the other people around us that, this amazing prophecy has been fulfilled in whatever way that is. So that's why this verse, opposed to talking about why we should do tabligh, the Quran is always exhorting us to become the best that we can be as Muslims, and there's no limit to the best that we can be, because Allah the Almighty has said that He will never burden you beyond your capacity. And if Allah has promised us that we can be even on the level of prophets in terms of spirituality, that means we are capable of going out and preaching as well, because that was one of the main objectives of a prophet, is to go out and preach the message of Allah. So this is the first bit, and we'll go slowly into sayings as well of the Khulafa and Hazrat Masih Maud alayhi salatu wasalam. Again, we learn this from a very young age about the Holy Quran, where the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Khairukum man ta'allama al-Qur'ana wa 'allamahu." That the best among you, Muslims, are those who learn the Quran and teach it. And again, if we go back to the first verse, it's talking about the best among you in speech, and now we're talking about the best among you, Muslims or anyone who knows the Quran, is the one who learns it and then teaches it. So here again, it's not just for the Holy Quran, it's for everything in general. any knowledge you have, you will always feel more satisfied if you pass that knowledge on. And then you see that person grow and you see him passing knowledge on as well. So that is the ultimate stage of knowledge, is you've acquired knowledge and then you've passed it on, and you see that knowledge growing in someone else. So again, we learn this from this hadith, and specifically because everything is found in the Quran, as we talked, it is a perfect book and everything is in it. So at the same time, if we know the Quran, if we know what's written in the Holy Quran, then you can easily go and tell someone. And because we're taught from a very young age, alhamdulillah, the system of Ahmadiyyat allows us right from the grassroots to learn the sayings and the teachings of the Holy Quran. So we must also always hold that close to us and try to go and teach it, whether it's through your actions or it's through dialogue. Both are hand in hand. And again, the reason I want to put this is because it leads on to a very beautiful saying of Hazrat Masih Maud alayhi salatu wasalam. And the Holy Prophet ﷺ said, لا يؤمن أحدكم حتى يحب لأخيه ما يحب لنفسه. That none of you will have faith until he loves for his brother what he loves for himself. And if you really love Ahmadiyyat, if you really love Hazrat Masih Maud alayhi salatu wasalam and what he has come and taught, we believe that we are those people that written in the Holy Quran that وَآخْرِينَ مِنْهُمْ لَمَّا يَلْحَقُوا بِهِمْ, that we are the last of those people who will be connected back with the first people, meaning we are the last Jamaat who will be connected with the first Jamaat, meaning the Jamaat of the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And to become like them, we need to look at their actions. We need to look at how they behaved and how they conducted themselves and how they taught and spread the teachings of Islam. And that's why they say that the Holy Prophet ﷺ was the most influential man to have ever come, because he came in the middle of Arabia where only people were doing idol worshipping, where people were drinking, where people were doing all sorts of things, almost behaving like animals, and they were compared to animals. And to have changed that whole society, and for Islam to have spread from the Middle East to the rest of the world in that short period of time, it was almost impossible unless it had the power of Allah behind it, which it did. And so for someone to have brought this message, this divine message, and then for the Masih Maud to come back and reform it 1400 years later, that shows in itself how precious the teachings of Islam is. And so if you really love the Jamaat, if you love Huzur, if you love everything that's consisted within our teachings, then you must also have that ability to pass it on as well. You will learn as those who are parents, who are becoming parents, who will get married. You're going to have to commit to someone else in your life. It won't just be you. It will be more than you, more than one person. And that means that whatever you know, you have to pass on automatically. And if you don't know enough, then you might be in trouble. And that's why you need to know your beliefs. You need to know why you are an Ahmadi. And you need to know how you're going to share that knowledge that you have through your actions and through your knowledge. And that's why this hadith is so important as well, for yourself and for others. And if you don't know enough, then it can be a danger for those around you as well. And if you don't know what to do in the right situation, then sometimes it will cause pain to other people. So again, if you love something, make sure you give it to your brother, or you give it to the people around you as well. And because we're talking about tabligh, we're talking about the true message of Islam, then that too comes within this as well. So now I'll go to this beautiful saying of Hazrat Masih Maud alayhi salatu wasalam. And the reason I kept saying why Islam is the true religion and why it has such a beautiful message, and Hazrat Masih Maud alluded to this as well, and he compared almost like a metaphor, the beautiful teachings of Islam to a ruby. And he said that this ruby is worth purchasing though one may have to lose oneself to acquire it. O ye who are deprived, hasten to this fountain, as it will satiate you. It is this fountain of life that will save you. What am I to do? How shall I impress the hearts with this good news? What sort of a drum am I to beat in the streets in order to make the announcement that this is your God, so that people might hear? What remedy shall I apply to the ears of the people so that they should listen? And again, this really shows Hazrat Masih Maud passion. This ruby has been sent down, and Hazrat Masih Maud is looking and searching and observing how he can spread the message of Islam to every single person. And he even said in here, in this quote, that what sort of drum am I to beat in the streets in order to make the announcement? And this is a prophet saying this. This is someone during our own time who we know through his writings, and we know through all of his companions that have talked about him, about what kind of person he was. And he said that I would do this myself if I was able to. If I was able to come to England and speak English and go to door to door and tell people about Allah, about the oneness of God, then he would. But in reality, one person cannot do that. That lies upon the shoulders of his Jamaat, upon his followers. And we are those people, the Ahmadi Muslims, who are the followers of Hazrat Masih Maud, who have come to try and in some way take this burden as well and try to emulate the work that Hazrat Masih Maud has come to do. And it's not just for missionaries, it's not just for Waqf Zindagis, it's for every single person, and everyone has the capability to do that. And beloved Hazur is always saying this, that his Jamaat are like his arms, where he can't be, his Jamaat is. And they're the people who are there to spread the message of Ahmadiyya. So again, this is why Tabligh is so important. No matter how you do it, everyone has friends, everyone has a circle that they're involved in, and everyone is capable of enlarging their circle, especially now. We know through social media it can be used in a very good way, although it has negativity attached to it. But beloved Hazur has taught us how we can use all of these tools in the right way and to spread the message of Ahmadiyyat through that. I'll just quickly talk about Hazrat Khalifatul Masih Awal, and he said that injury and its pain, sleeplessness and its anguish, weakness and infirmity set aside, the passion of Khalifatul Masih I for Tabligh is such that when Brother Mufti Muhammad Sadiq Razillah who returned from preaching, Hazrat Khalifatul Masih I listened to the narration of his journey with extraordinary attention. He became extremely happy on learning his details of the Tabligh work that had been carried out in those areas where he had traveled. And so this shows that the people of Allah, they love Tabligh, and they love when people do Tabligh. They want to hear about it because they want to know what the beliefs are of people. They want to know what the mindset is. They want to know what the ideology is in that particular area. And every single person who I've ever spoken to, who has ever done Tabligh, and a few of you listening today have gone with you, and always the thing that's always leaves an impact on your heart is those conversations you have with people who actually there and they want to listen. And it's not just about giving leaflets and getting numbers. That's a different thing. But always the thing that is most satisfying is when you just have a conversation with someone, you let them speak, and you listen to them. And in between that, you tell people what your beliefs are, and they'll walk away happy and you'll walk away happy as well. And that is the best feeling that anyone can give. And you've just shared a part of your life with someone who you didn't know before. And so that's why these things, the more you do it, the more you practice it, the more satisfaction you'll get from it. And you know that you fulfilled something that Allah wants from you. That's why we should try and really familiar ourselves with doing tabligh in every way that we possibly can. And lastly, this is the last slide before we finish. Beloved Hazur has always exhorted all members of the Jamaat to try and work together. And in Spain, a few years ago, 2 years ago, he said that while our central Tabligh secretary of Spain, the Tabligh secretaries of each Jamaat and other office bearers should be devising plans according to the circumstances. At the same time, it is also the duty of every Ahmadi to give time to this, whether they are part of Khudam, Lajna, or Ansar. So again, beloved Hazur in this encapsulates almost every single person. He encapsulates office bearers, encapsulates each member of each auxiliary, saying that it's everyone's duty, but it's everyone's duty to also come together and try to work out how we can do it. Every area is different. If you look in the Midlands, we have a large cultural difference. We have a multicultural society. Many people have come from the subcontinent living here. People have come from Africa living here. But if you go further north into the more rural areas, in those areas are more white, more English people. So the way of doing tabligh will differ from place to place wherever you go. That's why it always takes people to come together and trying to devise a plan of how exactly tabligh should be carried out. And lastly, Muslims who oppose us sometimes raise such allegations against the promised Messiah, والسلام, which in response can be used against other prophets too. Thus, the Tabligh department should also compile allegations of this kind and their rebuttals and make them available to the Jamaats. So again, it's almost like we are the defenders of Hazrat Masih Maud and the Holy Prophet and Islam in general. If you ever love something so much, you naturally want to protect it. And this is almost an attribute that is embedded in us, the attribute of trying to protect something, especially from mother to son, and all mothers' children, and vice versa. We're always looking to protect something. And Jamaat is something that we should always try and protect. If we ever hear anyone saying anything against us or contrary to our beliefs, then we should have the courage, within reason, to stand up and try and defend that the best that we can. And everyone has the ability to do that. Some people are sometimes very reluctant because they think they don't know enough. But we talked about this yesterday. Is the way you're going to learn is if you put yourself in that situation and try and learn, and go back and try to research and try to increase your knowledge in that way. With that, we should always try and pray that we were able to fulfill our responsibilities as Ahmadis, understand what our role is, understand who we are, and try every day to increase our level of tabligh in any capacity that is. You can go outside, you can, when you're doing shopping, you can just talk to the cashier, ask her how she is or he is, and just let them talk, and just in that way, they're understanding that this is how this person has conducted themselves. This person seems like a very good person, and within that, you don't even have to explain that you're an Ahmadi or anything. Just have a conversation, and just you reaching out to them is your tabligh done. So that's something which we can all do. It just takes a little bit of courage, and inshallah we'll all get there. So that's about it from me today. Jazakallah everyone for joining. We said before that we don't want to keep the daras too long. Try and keep things within half an hour. So Jazakallah everyone again for joining. Today we talked about why we should do tabligh. Yesterday we talked about what is tabligh exactly, and today we talked about why we should do tabligh. I think there's some questions. Zatab, shall I read them out, or do you want to read them?
Yes, Murtab, you can. There is a few questions. If they have which have been sent, but if you'd like to choose which one is more appropriate or more, for the audience.
So there's one question here that's, how can I put my fear back and do tabligh in public? I just literally just mentioned this. Sorry guys, I've just had a bit of a flu, so excuse me for that. So how can I put my fear back and do tabligh in public? So one of the best things is you're not alone, firstly. A lot of the time, even when I was growing up, I used to be really scared of even just knocking on the door, because you don't know what's on the other side. Anything can happen. But every time I've seen myself knocked on someone's door, always I've had some sort of experience that I've learned from, good and bad. And that's helped me build my character. At the same time, what Jamaat says as well, that you should never be alone anyway. You should always have someone with you. And so you should always buddy up with someone who knows what they're talking about, who has a bit more confidence, and just shadow them and see what they do. And then every now and then, just say to them, let me do it this time, or let me try and talk to this person this time. And in that way, that fear you had of, maybe you didn't know enough, or maybe you just didn't have the confidence, will vanish. And so in that way, everyone should be helping each other. And that's what we were talking about, how people should come together and plan these things. In the same way, physically, we should go out there together as a group, twos, threes, it doesn't matter. Depends what it is, if it's a bookstall, if it's just leafleting. Even though these days it's not really happening. But if it was, then that's the way that we should do it. And that's the way we were doing it in Walsall as well, quite a lot. Wolverhampton as well. Whenever we'd go leafleting, we'd go together, go in twos, and then try to talk to people. And then you realize how your friend would talk to someone, and then next time you try and talk in that way as well. So that's how I think, and how I've experienced getting that fear away, like that. Now the question is, what is the best social media platform to do tabligh? So each to their own, really. I've seen that tabligh on Twitter is very good. You get a lot of allegations there. You get a lot of good things there as well, because you can learn a lot. And it's mainly people who are, intellectuals are found more on Twitter. So if you're looking for a good debate with someone, or just to answer someone, you can go on Twitter. For the younger guys who don't use Twitter as much, Instagram is always there. People are always saying things on Instagram as well, things you can answer to. Just recently, there was a video about someone basically becoming Muslim, and he did the bet, or the way they do it is saying tashahhud, saying La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah. So when he said this, and when he said the translation, instead of saying there's no God but Allah and Muhammad is the messenger of Allah, he said Muhammad is the last messenger of Allah. He changed the meaning of the translation. And so in that way, Ahmadis jumped on that, and they answered it saying, why are you changing the translation of the Shahada? And they wrote what the real translation is. So that's just one example. So there's many platforms. Facebook as well, and it's very, very good. It can be good. Zul has always said that be careful on Facebook, because a lot of harm can be done as well there. But if you're doing it for tabligh purposes, then it can be very good and beneficial. So for me, I use Instagram and Twitter more, not so much on Facebook. But anyone who has any conversation on Facebook, they pass it through me as well, and I try to help them with that as well. Another question is, what benefit is there to me for doing tabligh? So if you listen to today's presentation, then I think you'll realize what the benefit is. The ultimate benefit, and one of the main reasons why we are created is to establish a connection with Allah the Almighty. And as I said, the best believer is that person who's good in his good works, his actions, and also his words and what he says. And if you're preaching the word of Allah, then you're the best people that ever sent to this world are prophets. Was the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, whose sole goal was to spread the message of Islam. And so if we can partake even a fragment, even a small section of that, and take that burden upon ourselves even a little bit, then it will increase our love for the Jamaat and make us closer to Allah the Almighty. And that is the ultimate benefit. Apart from that, you're becoming a better person yourself, because you're increasing your knowledge about your religion, and you're falling in love with the teachings of Islam. So there's there's nothing that you won't benefit in at all. Along with, you're gonna have such a good relationship with Allah, but also the Khalifa, and that too will be a physical benefit that you will see. And if Huzur is pleased with you, then ultimately Allah the Almighty will also be pleased with you. Is there a sin if we do not do tabligh? So I can't say if you'll get sinned or not, but it depends what you mean by that question. If I'm trying to picture of a scenario of how you would get a sin. Let's see. If you had the opportunity to defend Islam in that moment, say someone said something about Hazrat Masih Maud alayhi salatu wasalam, it's not a sin to not answer them back, but you should try your best to try and defend them, and you should try your best to either stand up to them or to leave that area. If they're continuously saying things and they're not listening, then it's better for you to leave that area, because it's also not good to listen to insults constantly. So either tell them, you shouldn't be talking like this about anyone. If they still don't listen, then it's best for you to leave. But you should always try to find some confidence within you, no matter where you are, to try your best to portray the message of Islam in any way that you can. How best to do tabligh in pandemic? Can tabligh be done on TikTok? How best to do tabligh in a pandemic? It's a very good question. It's something which we are all adjusting to, and as you know, everyone's going onto social media now. Everyone's going onto the virtual world, but that doesn't mean that you can't go out and talk to people. It doesn't mean that you can't go and talk to your neighbor. All of these things are still allowed, within reason, within of course the limits. No one's saying for you to go out, don't talk to anyone, keep your eyes down and go about your business. You're still allowed to talk to people. So that's one way, but of course, because as I said, we've gone onto this virtual bandwagon. Then try to find ways of how you can do tabligh. You can always make friends. If you're in school, you still have school friends that you talk to. If you're at work, you still have your work mates that you are in contact with. So it really depends who you are. The main thing is that enlarging your circle of friendship and your social bonds, and really try to see your limits, see how far you can get. But one of the main things is, especially during this time, is increase your own knowledge, increase your capacity of how much you know yourself about Ahmadiyyat. There's so many avenues you can do that. For example, if you go on YouTube, if you go on MTA, even on social media, there's always posts about the Jamaat. So it's almost you almost can't miss it. It's always going to be in your face. So try your best. About TikTok, definitely you can. That's another social media if you're using it in the right way. A lot of people actually do very good videos on TikTok. For those of you who don't know what TikTok is another platform where a video-based platform where you can have captions and filters, etc., etc. But if you're saying a good message, then for sure, then use it, and it's just another avenue. But with everything with social media, you have to make sure that you're doing it in the right way, and you're using wisdom for what you're doing, and don't use all of these tools that are given to humans now in the wrong way, because there are so many documentaries now which almost scare you, which almost show that you shouldn't have a phone, you shouldn't have social media. And there's a very good documentary on Netflix, if anyone has a chance to watch that. It's called Social Dilemma, or Social something within those lines. And they're talking about how all of these social media platforms have become so intertwined with society now that it's changed the way people have thought, and it's changed the way people have behaved. One example in the documentary is that the mother says to her family, okay, now today, no one's going to have a phone at the dinner table. And she took everyone's phone and put it in a glass container, and the glass container was sealed with a lid with a timer of 1 hour. So you can't open the lid for a whole hour. And they sat at the table. No one had anything to talk about. So, because they're also used to, and even one of the members was constantly putting his hand towards his pocket because he thought his phone was there. So this is how much people have changed over just a few years, and how much a phone has affected our own behavior, and how we talk and how we behave around people. And within a few minutes, one of the members got up and smashed the glass container, took her phone, and ran upstairs. Obviously, it's a very extreme scenario, but at the same time, this is the reality, and this is what the world has moved to. And so they're even saying that people who invent social media, people who invent phones and all of these things, they don't allow their own children to have these devices until they're much older, until they go to high school or secondary school or college. So that's one of very interesting and important aspect, especially for parents to manage their children, because a lot of people are going into this line, and it has a lot of negative effects and psychological effects. So it has to be managed in the right way. And that's why when we talk about tabligh, and when we talk about doing tabligh online, it has to be done and managed in the right way, because a lot of negativity can be attached to it. How can we be attached and get closer to Allah the Almighty? Alhamdulillah, we are so fortunate and we are so lucky to have accepted Hazrat Masih Maud والسلام, and the Khulafa after him, and especially us living in this country. We are so blessed to have Khilafat in our country, and this is something which can never be taken for granted. So we have a physical avenue to get closer to Allah through His Khalifa. And anyone who ever wants to strengthen their tie with Allah, strengthen your tie with Khilafat. And He has given us such a great opportunity that we can create a personal relationship with Him. And anyone who has ever written to Beloved Hazur, who has received a letter from Beloved Hazur, you realize you'll instantly get the satisfaction. Alhamdulillah, Hazur has read my letter, and Hazur has replied to my letter, and he's even signed this letter. And that in its way increases your love for Hazur, and you don't realize, but this is also increasing your love for Allah the Almighty. And the more you love Beloved Hazur, the more you'll ultimately love Allah the Almighty. And they say that, if you love Khalifa Rabi Rahimullah said this, and it's said so many times, that if you love the artist, then you must love the art, and vice versa. If you love the art, then you must love the artist. And if you love creation, then you must love the creator, meaning Allah. If you love Allah, then you'll love his creation. And so it's not just through writing letters to Huzur, but in everyday life. Apart from doing namaz, of course, this is so important, but sometimes you're not feeling that pleasure in namaz. So you can find that in other things. Just looking at nature, just observing nature, just looking up at the stars and letting your mind get lost in how Allah has created all of these things. All of these paths will lead you to increasing your attachment with Allah the Almighty. Along with so many other things, with financial sacrifice and helping the poor and all these things that will give you some sort of satisfaction of giving back to humanity. That too will help you, inshallah, increase and develop that attachment with Allah the Almighty. That's it. How long can we go for? Because I'm sure many people have many questions.
I would say that we have gone over half an hour, obviously, and obviously people do have work tomorrow. So inshallah, we can catch up on the questions for another session, inshallah, possibly tomorrow or another session, inshallah.
Yeah, I think there's one more, but it's more of a statement that someone has written, that on the day of judgment, how will you feel if your neighbor is in hell and you have not helped him? I think that's a very powerful statement, something to think about. Not everyone knows that Hazrat Masih Maud has come, and we have that opportunity to let people know, and we have that opportunity to share. As we talked about this ruby, which Hazrat Masih Maud has talked about, which we can go out on the streets. And you said that if we go out on the streets with a drum, what drum will I beat to let people know that Allah the Almighty is here and he's alive and he's talking, and that you can make a relationship with him. So at least the people around you, try and affect those people, at least give them some sort of message of Ahmadiyyat, of Allah. And in that way, Allah the Almighty will be pleased with you. And on the day of judgment, he will ask you, and you would say that I gave the message, I gave the message to the people around me. And I'm sure that Allah will be pleased with you with that work. So Jazakallah for the beautiful questions, very nice, and something which we can all work on. Just to update everyone, from tomorrow, inshallah, I just want to make an announcement that I'm trying to develop this dars into in an even more interesting way. So as you know, we're in a pandemic and it's very difficult to travel, especially to European countries, with the prices and the pandemic in our neighboring countries as well. So I just want to take everyone on like a small virtual holiday to different parts of Europe. From tomorrow, inshallah, we'll have different murabbis from different countries of Europe talking about how they do tabligh in their countries and what they go through and how we can learn from them. And this will go from Iceland to Finland to Spain and Czech Republic and other countries, which we are working on in the background. So we'll almost get a feel of how life is like in different parts of Europe. So inshallah, I hope and pray that this is successful and that we can learn from it as well. And inshallah, it will develop our capacity of spreading the message of the true Islam. So with that, inshallah, see everyone tomorrow at 8:30 again for a talk from our special guest from a different part of Europe, inshallah. Jazakumullah khairan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.